You guys weren't expecting this, were you? This is the world's best kept secret. So the DJI Mini 3 Pro is here, and I'm going to show you 51 things that you should know about it before you consider buying it. Now these 51 items are a collection of facts and features about the Mini 3 Pro, and along the way, I'll demonstrate the results of many of the tests that I've conducted on this little powerhouse over the past 5 weeks and 36 flights. Now I've organized them by category, and there are timestamps in the video description for your convenience. So let's get started. It's probably actually the worst kept secret of all time. But anyway, here we are, let's get to it. First of all, the Mini 3 Pro is the most quiet drone that I have ever flown. It was the very first thing that I noticed when I first launched it into the air. Like, it is stunningly quiet. Wow, here I'm going to turn this up so you guys can see it better. Yeah, there we go. Holy cow, is that quiet. Staying inconspicuous while flying is more important than it ever has been, especially as we get closer to the release of remote ID in the United States. It's something that I think is on every drone pilot's mind right now, and staying under the radar is super important. Here's a real quick comparison to some of my other drones, and you'll see just how quiet the Mini 3 Pro is. Pretty amazing, right? Now, advertised to handle a scale 5 wind, this little drone actually exceeds that. I flew it in a blizzard with 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts, and it held GPS position perfectly. And we're just gonna go up a little bit at a time. Looks like it, okay, it went back a little bit there. Let's move up. All right, and here comes more snow. All right, so let's go up. Let's go up to 25 feet and see how it is. "27 satellites, so that makes me feel a little bit better. I'm going to hit the record button so you guys can see how steady this is. It looks pretty good on the screen recording anyway. This controller, by the way, super awesome. And it's getting worse. It's doing really well. All right, let's go up a little higher. I'm not going to get too carried away here. Okay, so there's 45 feet. We'll stay at 45 feet, especially since the wind seems to be coming up a little bit right now. But hey, that's impressive. This drone continues to impress me, you guys. Now, if you want to see a really amazing wind test on the Mini 3 Pro, check out Peter Lindgren's video. I'll post it right up here, and I'll link it in the video description. It's pretty funny. I did notice the other day in a 25-mile-per-hour wind that it does handle just a little bit better when using the bigger Battery Plus. Now, I'm going to talk more about the batteries here in just a second. So the Mini 3 Pro has a maximum speed of 16 meters per second, which is about 36 miles per hour. And I was able to exceed that several times. I was able to fly this about 37 miles per hour in sport mode. This drone is very fast and it's very zippy. Although this drone handles and responds quite well right out of the box, it's really nice to have the ability to fine-tune the inputs to match your preferences. Now, after playing with the settings over a few flights, these are the numbers that I found to be the best for getting smooth video footage with this drone. But keep in mind that personal preference is always the best, but hopefully by me sharing these settings, it'll give you a good base to start with. One of the features, of course, that will make this one of the most popular drones of all time is that it weighs less than 250 grams. And it's not just that, it's the fact that it has so many professional features and yet still remains that light. As we move into more strict regulation for consumer drones, having a mini drone with the capabilities of this one is going to be very appealing for recreational pilots. The Mini 3 Pro folds into a very compact form that allows you to take it just about anywhere with ease. And having a drone that fits anywhere means that you're going to take it with you more often, And that means that you're always going to be prepared to capture some awesome aerial footage should the opportunity present itself. A unique feature that I think many will find interesting are these really long prop arms on such a small drone. They really contribute to the striking design of the Mini 3 Pro, along with these protruding sensors on the front. Now, I'm guessing that these longer prop arms aren't just for aesthetics. I'm guessing they have something to do with the improved propulsion efficiency. I'm no engineer, so I'm sure there's some of you that will comment down below why you think they made these prop arms so long. Thank goodness that DJI went back to the top mounted power button. I know it's a minor detail, but I'm very happy with it, and I think many other people will be as well. There's a USB-C charging port on the back, which allows you to charge the battery while it's on board of the drone. And then this port is also used to transfer files to your computer. Also on the back is a micro SD card slot, and the Mini 3 Pro is able to handle a 512 gigabyte micro SD card. And you're gonna need it if you're gonna be shooting a lot of 4K 60 footage. Now I'm gonna put a link down in the video description for the micro SD card that I've been using to get the best video footage out of this drone. This large open space behind the gimbal is like an air box that kind of works as an active cooler while the drone is flying. Now the warmest temps that I've flown it in so far has been about 75 degrees Fahrenheit. So it remains to be seen if there's going to be any overheating problems when you're shooting 4K footage for a long period of time on hotter days. And the reason I bring that up is because my drone actually did overheat once, and it happened while it was sitting on the table. It was sitting in direct sunlight on the table on my deck, and then I was upgrading to the latest firmware. Now it only got up to 133 degrees according to my infrared sensor, which doesn't seem that hot to me, but it was enough to trigger that warning on the app. And I haven't been able to duplicate this since, so I'm guessing it was just because it was updating the firmware. But we'll see when it gets a little bit hotter here if I have any overheating problems. And if I do, I'll make a video about it. Hey, before we get to the next category, I do want to let you know that I do have several more videos planned for the Mini 3 Pro, just because I think this is going to be such a popular drone. I'm going to do a lot more comparisons with some of my other drones. I'm going to do some tutorials on specific features that it has, and lots more. So if you long for more content about the Mini 3 Pro, or if you're gonna get this and this is gonna be your first drone and you really have no idea where to start, I suggest that you consider subscribing to the channel. I'm pretty confident that you're gonna find some useful information here if you do. All right, let's get to the camera system. There's a lot to talk about here. First of all, the Mini 3 Pro has a 1/1.3 inch sensor, and that is nearly a 1 inch, just like the Air 2S has. A sensor that big in a drone this size is pretty impressive. And a larger sensor means better quality in low light conditions and a greater dynamic range of tones in all conditions. In addition to that larger sensor, the camera also has an f1.7 aperture. That's yet another feature that will help the Mini 3 Pro shine in low light conditions. The camera is able to capture 48 megapixel images, so if you ever want to make some large prints of any of your favorite aerial photos that you captured and hang them on your wall to share with your family and friends, you can rest assured that they're going to look great. With the Mini 3 Pro, you can record D-Cinelike video footage, which allows you to have more creative control while editing. So for example, here I recorded this area in normal color profile, which really doesn't look that bad. I think it looks pretty good, but then I recorded it, the same scene in D-Cinelike, and I added just a few edits. It took like 60 seconds, and that really made it pop. D-Cinelike really provides you with more freedom to personalize your videos, and then also it allows you to make the scene look like it did when you saw it with your own eyes. You're not relying on the drone to edit for you. You can make it look like how you remember. The Mini 3 Pro records in slow motion video, which is very nice. However, it only does it in 1080p. My suggestion is you're going to be better off recording in 4K 60, and then when you're editing, just slow that down to about 50%, and that's going to look much better. Now, one major improvement over the Mini 2 is that this drone now records video at up to 150 megabits per second. That's the same as the Air 2S. A higher bitrate means smoother playback and ultimately more professional looking footage. Now here's something that's really interesting. This drone has what's called dual native ISO. And that's something that only used to be available on expensive cinema cameras, but now it's making its way into mirrorless camera systems and other cameras, as well as drone cameras. And that means that this drone can capture true HDR photos. So for example, here are two photos of this Gustav church in our community. One is taken with the Mini 3 Pro,
and the other is taken with the Air 2S. So can you guess which one is from which drone? What about if I zoom in and then tell you to pay attention to this area right here and here? Or what about here and here? So now can you tell which one is from which drone? Well, I'm guessing that you probably guessed wrong. I was so impressed when I started comparing and doing pixel peeping from photos from the Mini 3 Pro to my other drones. It's really impressive. And I think aerial photographers are gonna love this drone. The camera does digitally zoom up to 2x in 4K, 3x in 2.7K, and 4x in 1080p. This feature allows you to really get a nice parallax effect. Like if you're moving the drone to the side and you're focused on that subject, it's gonna give you that parallax. And then also allows you to get a little bit closer to your subject that you're recording without having to worry about getting your drone too close and worrying about its safety. Now this one is big, it's really big. And I think it's another reason that this drone is gonna fly off the shelves. No pun intended. Okay, pun intended. The Mini 3 Pro has the ability to rotate the camera and shoot vertically. You see, the Mavic Pro did this 5 years ago, and it wasn't really a big deal back then because it was way ahead of its time before vertical video was popular at all. But now with Instagram and TikTok and YouTube Shorts and many others, people are really gonna be excited to add a drone to their short form content. I guarantee you that we're gonna see a ton of TikTokers start using aerial footage in their videos because of this drone right here. Now this is something really unique for DJI. We have two different batteries. The regular battery is a 2453 milliamp hour, and you do need to use this one if you wanna stay under that 250 grams. Now the best hover time that I got with this battery, and I brought it from 100% down to 3%, I got 27 minutes, and that was with a light breeze. And then in my charging test, I charged this from 15% to 100%, and it took 57 minutes. And that was using the DJI 30-watt charger. If you get this drone, get yourself a 30-watt charger or better. Don't try to grab a charging brick and an old cord from out of your junk drawer and try to charge these batteries because you're gonna lose your mind. It's gonna take all day. Get a 30-watt charger. I promise you, you won't regret it. And then we have the optional battery plus, and this is a 3850 milliamp hour that provides significantly more flight time. And then also, which was a nice surprise in my testing, it does help the Mini 3 Pro handle better in stronger winds. So the best hover test time that I got with this down to 3% is 40 minutes. And this is really significant because in all other DJI battery tests that I've done, I normally get about 70 to 75% of advertised flight time. Well, I got 40 minutes. The advertised flight time with this is 47. So we're looking at an 85% flight time compared to the advertised. And that's really, really good. I don't know what they did differently with this battery, but that's pretty impressive. And then charging this battery up, it took 94 minutes to charge it from 15% up to 100%. The DJI Mini 3 Pro is the only sub 250 gram drone on the market at the making of this video that has three-way obstacle avoidance, forwards, backwards, and downwards. Now in my testing so far, it has worked flawlessly. Even in complex situations like clusters of little branches, pretty much any challenging situation that I put it in, to test out the obstacle avoidance, it has worked every single time. APAS 4.0 is DJI's newest pilot assistance mode that keeps the drone moving by going around or above obstacles cinematically instead of stopping in front of them. And it does work very well, but I did experience a couple of issues that I'm going to tell you about in the last segment of this video. Just like every other DJI drone, the Mini 3 Pro does have emergency shutoff feature that can be used in case of extreme situations. Only use this when there are no other options because your drone will come crashing down to the ground. The battery locking system is very secure and it has a very satisfying click when you insert it into the drone. And then also I love that you don't have to worry about that battery flap, that battery cover wearing off or breaking off like some people have experienced with the Mini 2.
So I just got done doing another focus tracking test with the Mini 3 Pro and it works really well. Now, whether you love focus tracking or you don't, it does come in pretty useful for many situations. So I tested it out on my vehicle with my e-bike right here with my scooter and then just walking. And it works really well, but I really advise against using it in any kind of situations where there's obstacles because most crashes occur with drones when the drone's moving sideways. And the Mini 3 Pro does not have lateral obstacle avoidance. I kind of wish they would have put, instead of rear obstacle avoidance, the lateral obstacle avoidance. I think that would be more important. And one thing that I really wanted to test out was how fast can you go? How fast can the drone go and keep focus track locked onto you? So the fastest I was able to go both with my bike and my pickup was just around 22 miles per hour. I think it was like 22.8 miles per hour. That's as fast as the Mini Pro can travel while it's doing focus tracking. And I tried it several times from all different directions. I tried it recording video, not recording video. So just know that's about as fast as you're gonna be able to go if you're gonna be using focus track. So, and then I also tested it out a little bit to see if it could keep track of me if I kind of walked behind some obstacles. So I went in between some trees and things like that. So it lost me for just a second or two, but then it picked me right back up. So I'm gonna do some further testing on that. I'm actually gonna put out a dedicated review in the future of the Mini 3 Pro focus tracking, so watch for that. I'll get into a little more detail on the focus tracking features of this drone. Now the Mini 3 Pro has the normal 6 Quickshot modes for automated capture in creative ways. So they still include Droney, Rocket, Circle, Helix, Boomerang, and Asteroid. Now I actually wish they would come up with some new ones because quite honestly, these are getting a little bit boring. So what I'd like you guys to do, if you have any ideas, like what would make for a good quick shots mode, put them down in the comments. And then maybe DJI will read those comments and say, you know what, that's a great idea. We never thought of that because, you know, strength in numbers. I think the more people that say, try these different things, you know, maybe they'll take notice and start doing something and giving us something new and exciting. So just an idea. Now Mastershots is another mode on the Mini 3 Pro. It's been around for a while now, and what it does is it captures a variety of flight patterns over your subject, and then it constructs a short film put to music. And there's several templates that you can choose from to fit the mood that you're trying to convey with your Mastershots video. It's not something that I use on a regular basis, but I know that a lot of new pilots like it because they really don't have to do any work. They just highlight the subject, hit the Mastershots, and there they have a really fun video. Hyperlapse is one of the most fun and creative things that you can do with a drone. I love it. You can program automated flight paths, or you can fly your own, and the drone will take a succession of photos, and at the end creates a video showing the rapid passage of time. And it really adds an interesting flair to any video project. You know, I think Casey Neistat made Hyperlapse super popular a few years ago, and it's still popular today, especially when you're doing it with a drone. The Mini 3 Pro captures panoramic scenes, including wide, 180 degree and sphere. And even on windy days, this little drone can capture and stitch together a solid panorama. Here you can see as I recorded the drone as it was being shook around, and then it captured and stitched images together to create this panorama. So I think that's just so impressive that it's able to do that while being shook around by the wind that much. So DJI O3 transmission is on board, providing up to 15 kilometers of signal strength in ideal conditions. Now, like I always say in every one of my drone launch videos, I'm never gonna do a range test on this channel because I feel like I have a responsibility. You know, I preach about following the rules and keeping your drone within visual line of sight, but I'm sure that someone out there is gonna do a range test, probably on launch day, and I'm gonna go ahead and find the best one that I can, and I'll post it down in the video description so you can see their range test. One thing that I will tell you is, although I didn't fly this thing as far away as it could go, there's an area near my home where I usually lose connection with all of my other drones, my Air 2S, my Mini 2, my Mavic 2 Pro, and I always lose connection because I live in a valley, there's a lot of trees around me. With the Mini 3 Pro, I can go further than that spot. So just know, I don't know what's different about this drone. I'm guessing that it has to do with where the antenna are possibly on the drone, but I can fly further without interference than I have with any other drone. Now, like I mentioned briefly already, the antenna for the Mini 3 Pro are in the legs, if you want to call them that. They're not really legs, they're kind of just little stubby nubs here, but apparently this allows for better signal transmission and strength. I don't get it. I don't see how the antenna can be in here, but I guess that's where they are. Wherever they are on this drone, it works better than any of my other ones. The new RC is a miniature version of the RC Pro. And at the risk of sounding extremely biased, this thing is really, really amazing. It has a resolution of 1080p at 30 frames per second. It has a 700 nit brightness screen, and it is crystal clear. Now, when I first opened the box and I saw it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is stunningly bright. But then I pulled out my RC Pro, and I'm like, okay, it's not quite as bright as the RC Pro, but it's still pretty good. I have the unique opportunity to demonstrate to you the difference
in all of the brightness levels of all 3 smart controllers from DJI. So here's the RC that comes with the Mini 3 Pro right now. I don't know if it's going to be compatible with other drones. I would assume that it is, but as of now, we don't know that. Here is the original RC Pro. As you can see, it is a little bit brighter, and the nit level escapes me right now, but I'll put it up on the screen. So here's 700 nits, and there is, I believe it's 1,000 nits, but I'm not sure. You can see that this is a little bit cooler. This is a little bit warmer, a little bit brighter. And then of course here we have the monster. This is the RC Plus that comes with the M30T. This thing is so fun, so amazing. You know, not for everyone, but it is pretty cool. So there's all 3 of them side by side, so you can see the brightness level. You know, when you see this by itself, you're like amazed at the brightness. But then when you compare it to the RC Pro, you're like, okay, maybe it's not that bright, but it is still pretty cool. The RC is ergonomically very comfortable to hold as well. It's lightweight with appropriately sized grips that have this rubber coating on them. And unless you have like giant sized hands, I think most people are gonna enjoy using this controller. It has the C1 and the C2 customizations on the back to allow for quick access to your most used features. It's really nice to be able to change those up quickly depending on your situation. The RC has removable control sticks that store on board, which is very convenient. What I don't like is that they are a completely new design, so you can't use previous sticks from any of your other drones, and that seems to be DJI's MO. So I do recommend ordering an extra set of these right away if you get this controller, because they're very lightweight, they're very small, and if you drop one of these when you're out in the field, you're probably not going to find it. On the bottom of the RC is the MicroSD card slot for extra storage, there's a data port, and then there's these screw mounts for different mounting options. Now, if you don't know what I mean by that, go ahead and watch this video right here from Make Art Now to see how he mounted his RC Pro. It's very similar to that mounting system. Care Refresh is basically DJI's version of insurance for new drones, and that helps reduce your anxiety when flying a brand new drone. And I know I totally sound like an advertisement, but I had the opportunity to use it. I had to use Care Refresh on my Mavic 3 when I crashed it, and it saved me a ton of money. With as far as this gimbal sticks out from the fuselage, like it's really vulnerable, and if you crash this drone, it's gonna wreck that gimbal. I cannot recommend Care Refresh enough for this drone. And I was only without my Mavic 3 for 5 business days, and they sent me a brand new drone. So I'm gonna put all the details about Care Refresh down in the video description. You have 3 options when purchasing the Mini 3 Pro. You can get the drone by itself, and then you can use your RC-N1 from another drone that you might have. You can get the drone with the RC-N1, or you can get the drone with the new RC. Get this one. It's super cool. The Fly More combos and accessories are sold separately, and there are several options. My advice to anyone, no matter which drone package that you decide to get, is to get the battery plus Fly More combo. Having that extra flight time and greater stability in the wind and the charging bank is totally worth spending that $5 to register this drone. And then as for dealing with the remote ID, whenever that becomes active, you can just fly with a regular battery and you don't have to worry about it. And that reminds me, subscribe if you want to stay updated on all things remote ID, because we're getting really close to it being active. Now, no drone is perfect right away, and the Mini 3 Pro is no different. The first issue that I've had is one I experienced initially with the Mavic 3 as well, and that's when you're flying with obstacle avoidance set to bypass mode. The drone will increase in altitude slowly on its own as you fly forward without even touching the altitude stick. And it's a simple firmware fix, and I would expect it to be resolved very soon. And as of today, it's fixed. We just got a firmware update, and I went out and tested it out, and they fixed the issue where when you're flying in bypass mode where it increased in altitude, it doesn't do that anymore. It maintains the same altitude. But when you go backwards now, it increases in altitude when you're in bypass mode. It's not as bad. It doesn't increase as quickly as when, before, but it still does go up gradually as you're pulling the stick backwards. So it's better, but it's still a little bit of an issue. The second issue I had also is with APAS, and I discovered that it does not work when you're recording in 4K 60. All other times with any other recording mode, the drone will maneuver around any obstacles, it'll go over any obstacles, but when it's set to 4K 60 and it's recording, it will brake rather than bypass any obstacles. Again, a simple firmware fix. Next, with the RC, in order to unlock a Geozone, if you happen to be in an area like that, you have to have internet access. And that means if you're out in the field, you're gonna have to connect to your mobile device hotspot for internet access and then apply for the Geozone unlock. It's incredibly inconvenient. Now, if you're flying with the RC-N1 and your mobile device has data, then it's not that big of a problem. And one way to solve this is to apply for Geozone unlock at home before you head out to wherever you're gonna fly. I get it, I get the purpose for Geozone unlock, but I just have so many frustrations with it. Hopefully we'll continue to improve as time goes on. Okay, I did find one more problem I had to add here at the end, and this has to do with flying in sport mode against heavy winds. So this is a 30-mile-per-hour wind. I'm flying with the wind in sport mode. You can see the altitude is staying at 164 feet, and my speed is between 32 and 36 miles per hour. But coming back against the wind, I was in normal mode. You can see the altitude's at 128 feet. And then I go ahead and flip it into sport mode here and watch the altitude. The altitude instantly starts decreasing. I'm not touching that left stick. It just starts nose diving. It has to do with the battery being overloaded. It can't handle both forward motion, sport mode, and then maintaining altitude. So just be aware if you're flying against the wind in sport mode, it could decrease in altitude. Now it's kind of a significant issue, but I think it's another one that could be resolved with a firmware update. The battery full load came up every single time I was flying against the wind. And so yeah, just be careful. So it's pretty easy to get caught up in all the hyperbole and the excitement when a new drone is released. You know, it's always so much greater than the previous version of whatever this drone is. And I think that comes with being a fan of all things tech related. That's just how it is. You know, marketing departments exist for a reason, to tap into our dopamine and convince us that we need the latest and the greatest all the time. Now, do I think all of the hype that's been leading up to this drone release is worth it? Truthfully, I do, and here's why. You see, compact drones are the future for recreational drone pilots, and I've been saying that for 3 years, ever since they announced remote ID. And then when you can add obstacle avoidance, long flight time, and exceptional stability in wind, like the Mini 3 Pro has, it's pretty hard to argue against the fact that this is a trend-setting drone. And not only new pilots will be eager to have one, but even people who've been flying for years are going to want to add one of these to their lineup because of everything that it can do and how convenient it is. Also, I believe that it's priced appropriately and the variation of purchasing options meets a variety of individual needs. With only a few minor bugs that can be easily addressed with updates, I think even the biggest critics will struggle to find any opportunities for improvement with this drone. Now, there are links down in the video description for all things related to the Mini 3 Pro, if you want to learn more about them or if you want to purchase them. And if you use those links, it does help build this channel. And honestly, it's the best way to say thank you for all of the time and effort put into these videos. I truly appreciate your consideration. I would love it also if you commented with any questions that you have about this drone or the system or the controller or anything, because as I said, I have more videos planned and I would love to have your input in what goes into those future videos. Hopefully I covered enough information that you're able to make an informed decision today. And if I did provide you with anything of value, click on that thumbs up button, that like button, subscribe to see future videos, like I said, about this drone and many others. Follow me on social media like Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok for extra content that you're not going to see here on the YouTube channel. I hope you have a wonderful day, and as always, fly safe and fly smart.